Hey, what is going on, guys? And today we are bringing you a Champions League prediction video in courtesy of Real Fans. I have today myself and Will with us. We're doing a little standalone video here, just talking about the predictions and giving our thoughts, breaking down each game and who we think is going to win or lose, and some little hot takes that we might have. So we're going to start off with the first one today. We have Arsenal versus Bayern Munich. I'm going to kick it off to you first, Will. What do you think of this game?
Yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting, nice, man, I don't know how to say it, nice little British, German rivalry game. I think right now Bayern Munich, I don't know if you saw over the weekend, got absolutely just, I don't want to say commanded, but, a nice
Fell
little,
apart.
yeah, completely fell apart. I don't know what Thomas Tuchel, I don't know if this guy, is looking at like high school stats, or how to play the game, or he's never kicked a ball in his life before, but they are looking like really, really bad. This team, I don't even know if I could say that they're even going to qualify for Champions League. They're on the brink of that. They're still in second place, of course. Obviously they're 16 points behind Bayern Leverkusen. It's absolutely remarkable. But yeah, I don't know. I think this is going to be a really interesting key match. Arsenal is hot, as we've seen also over the weekend, 3-0 victory over Brighton. It's not an easy Brighton team, so it's going to be interesting. I think Arsenal's going to have a lot of firepower coming into this, and I think Bayern Munich's going to have a lot of doubts. Obviously, of course, doubtingly though, Bayern Munich still has a completely stacked roster. Top to bottom, left to right. This team is going to be a team to compete with, and they're still obviously eyeing of winning the Champions League, of course. But with all that being said, I think Arsenal, if there's a moment right now in history for these guys to do something special, it's this week and next week, or whatever the second leg is. But that's when Arsenal needs to make something happen, and I think they can. Obviously, I think the key man, if I had to say a key person up top that's going to be important for him, two names: Martin Odegaard and Leandro Trossard. Trossard is coming in hot, scored over the weekend against his old club in Brighton. I mean, this guy, he's a difference maker. Not only is he with the Arsenal team, but also with the Belgian national team. It's going to be quite interesting to see him compete there and as well. Martin Odegaard, I mean, this guy, he's a key maker. He's the difference maker. He can make stuff happen. So I think this is Arsenal's one for the taking.
Oh, we lost Will for a second, but I'm going to go into my prediction as well. So I see that you got Arsenal. For me, this is a tough one for me because I understand that Bayern is going through a tough spell right now and they're struggling. And this is one of the worst years that they've had in probably the past decade. Everybody's asking for Tuchel's head. But then meanwhile, on Arsenal, while Arsenal's having a great season, you feel like they could do better. They're obviously missing some pieces. Look, Kai Havertz is playing well as he can, given the role that he's given, but Arsenal still lacks a truly lethal, pure number 9 striker. And I think that might hurt them a little bit. So that's what's really hindering me from picking Arsenal, because the one thing that Bayern does do is Bayern does show up in Champions League. No matter what it is, what's going on in league play, they do show up in Champions League. But the lack of consistency that Bayern is having, it makes it hard for me to want to pick them. And even though I like the Bayern attack more with Muller, Kane, Sane, Musiala, the whole gambit of the attack over the Arsenal attack, I do struggle having faith in that Bayern defense because I find they've been super leaky this year. They've been allowing in a lot of goals. They're not really being defensively stout. And a lot of the games that they're winning, they're outscoring opponents. So I tell you what, though, could you imagine the Arsenal fan base losing to Harry Kane like in Champions League? That would suck. But it looks like this man is cursed. I'm going to have to go with Arsenal here. I think they're playing in better form. As much as I like the Bayern team on paper more, I'm just going to, based off form and what I'm seeing and the way the games are being managed by Bayern, I'm going to have to go Arsenal here. But I do think it's going to be a very close affair, and I wouldn't be terribly shocked if Bayern does win. They do have the advantage playing the second leg at home, so that could help them. But I feel like they're really going to struggle on the road at Arsenal, and they're going to be able to maintain that lead going into that second leg. So I got Arsenal advancing here. So let's go to the next
Yeah.
game. We have Real Madrid versus Manchester City, with the first game being at the Bernabeu. Well, what do you think of this game right here?
This is a good one. This is a good one. A little bit of a hot take. I think Real Madrid's going to get their shit slapped, just to be quite blunt. Vinicius, all due respect, this is not a political channel. We're not here to talk about politics. Obviously, racism is wrong. It's horrible. We all need to speak up against it. Obviously, I'm not going to be like Lauren Ingram from Fox News and say, shut up and dribble. That's not what Vinicius needs to do. But at the same time, there's so much off the field drama, I feel, with Real Madrid. And it's not only Vinicius. I mean, it's Eder Militao, it's Rudiger. What's the deal with, Tony Cruz and all these different things going off the field for Real Madrid. Can Rodrigo lock in? Obviously, we've talked about this before, Julian, you, Adam, and me. They don't have a center nine. I mean, what is his name? Just Wello.
Jose Lu.
Jose Lu. Yeah, Jose Lu's great. I mean, but he's 33 years old. And this guy, I don't think he's ever played
Champions League. He's not on the starting lineup either.
Yeah, exactly. So they're playing a 4-4-2 virtually, with obviously Vinicius and Rodrigo up top. And they have the pace and they have the speed and they have the goal attacking ability. But this team, and we talked about this on earlier podcasts before, this team hasn't really even been tested, in my true opinion. I mean, obviously, they've had some tough challenges. Now, granted, I will say Manchester City has had a pretty easy road as well. Obviously, I'm not going to state, that Copenhagen is, some incredible team that's going to, upset everybody. But at the same time, I just feel like within week in, week out, FA Cup, all these games going on throughout the Premier League for Manchester City, they've really been tested. And while Real Madrid has kind of had an easier La Liga spell when they had to catch Girona. So it's kind of like, I don't want to say two tale of different teams. Obviously, these teams have matched up, 3 times in the past 4 or 5 years. So this is obviously this is a Classico for both of these teams at this point. But I just feel like Manchester City has the edge. They have the ability. With Kevin De Bruyne coming back into it, we saw what he was able to do against Copenhagen. Those were his first games of Champions League this season. So I think he's obviously going to be the big difference maker. Of course, Erling Haaland's going to be the big talking point, whether he can score, whether Rudiger can put him in his back left pocket or not. But like I said, I just feel like there's too much going on for Real Madrid. The first game is in the Santiago Bernabeu, like you said. I think Manchester City goes in there and they're going to get a draw and then they're going to go home. I see an exact repeat of last year's series.
Yeah, so last year I had Real Madrid and I got a lot of flack for it from the comments and everything. And I will say last year I liked that Real Madrid team more. And I agree with you. I believe Real Madrid really hasn't been tested too much this season for the most, whether it be in Champions League, whether it be in La Liga. Their only true test that they've really faced this year and have had true battles with is Atletico. Atletico has really been the only team that stepped up to really put pressure on them and play quality football against them. But even they have their issues. They lack defensively, and we'll go deeper into that in their matchup. But so far, that's really been their only true test. And even then, they haven't looked necessarily the best, especially defensively. So one of my biggest concerns going into the season was no true number 9. I think it's been working out so far because, Barca's not really been the same. Atletico's been super leaky. Everybody else in La Liga hasn't really been able to match their quality. And then they kind of had an easier path going into Champions League outside of that Leipzig game where they struggled a little bit and potentially should have lost that game. And one of my concerns going into the season for Real Madrid was I really think not having a number 9 up top is really going to hurt them eventually. Eventually it will. And I think this is the game that it happens, not having that guy up front. I think they got lucky with Jude Bellingham being such an attacking presence that he is right now. Because, I mean, he's even touted himself. Everybody thought he was going to be a central midfielder. Ancelotti saw something in him. Great coaching in his part to put him up top. And he's shown quality to score and be effective in the attack, not just in the midfield. But I think when you're facing a Man City team, which is probably the best team in the world right now, it's going to be really tough to break that down, especially in the midfield. And while I do think it's going to be a midfield duel, I have a hard time picking between you have Rodri, and then you have Valverde on the other side. Then you got De Bruyne, and then you got Bellingham. So it's like, man, you're talking about a really great matchup on paper. But the one thing that City has that Real Madrid doesn't is you have Erling Haaland, probably the best striker in the world right now. While he's been getting a lot of flack for being a tap-in merchant, I don't think those claims are necessarily wrong. But he's still quality at the end of the day. He still puts him away. He still does what he has to do. And look, what else do you want from a guy who's up top? You want him to score goals? He's scoring goals.
Still won a treble.
Scoring goals. And because of that, I think Madrid loses both legs here. I think they actually lose at home, and I think they lose on the road. I do know that Manchester City is losing Kyle Walker, but there's just so much depth on that team. There's so much quality on that team. As much as he's going to be missed, they can still perform without him. And I think Real Madrid, missing Militao and missing Courtois, I think those are bigger hits than City missing Kyle Walker. So with that being said, I have City advancing here. As much as it pains me to say it, I think they're going to. All right. Let's go to the next game. We have Atletico Madrid versus Borussia Dortmund.
Oh, you want to start this one, Julian? I gotta compose my thoughts on Atletico. They're just
okay. Yeah, I can. Team, This is a matchup. Well, it really depends what Atletico we're gonna get, because we've seen moments in Atletico, especially during the Inter game, where I actually had Inter advancing that round because I thought they were going to have a more lethal attack, and with how loosey-goosey that defense can be for Atletico has been really, really bad. And even in the goalkeeping and no block, like it's not the same Atletico you're used to, being defensively solid and getting you on the counter. The attack has been great. I think Morata's been having a great season. Antoine Griezmann is playing amazing. You have Rodrigo de Paul and Koke that are playing well in the midfield this year. And I thought the attack has always been good. They've been putting up goal scoring, but they've been just allowing too much. And I thought because of that, they were going to lose to Inter. But they actually shown to hold their own against Inter for the most part, and actually take it to penalties and win the matchup. Now going to Dortmund has had a little bit of an easier path, but they've also they just won the Der Klassiker against Bayern Munich. They've played really well against PSV in that last matchup. It's kind of one of these matchups where I don't know which team you're going to get, because you've seen moments of Borussia Dortmund play really well this year, but then you've seen moments where they've kind of fall off. Obviously, they're not really in the title contention this year. Bayern Leverkusen's really taken off with that. But with that being said, I do think Atletico just has more quality. They've been playing a lot better. They've been showing some composure against higher quality competition. And I think when you're coming up with matchups like this, even though Atletico is playing the first leg at home, I think they're going to gain a sizable lead against Dortmund and eventually win the game at Dortmund. So I have Atletico here, but I do. It's another close one for me. This is just to say, this is one of the best quarterfinals I've seen in a while in regards to matchups. Usually there's always one that's kind of like, it's going to be lopsided. But so far it's been pretty fucking good since these are really good matchups so far. Things are kind of lining up. But yeah. You got your thoughts? What you got?
I got to ask you this. You think Cholo Simeone is going to get a red card in this fixture? Honestly, I mean, this guy, he's all over the place. I love him though. Love him. All love for him. All love for the Cholo.
No. I think they're going to play clean. I think everybody's going to be clean. I think they just want to advance. I think they have a really good path to making it to the final. I think you win this game, then you play the winner of PSG and Barca. I think you don't want to lose anybody. I think because Atletico, to me, they might be the favorites to make the finals out of this side of the bracket, in my opinion.
Exactly.
That's a little foreshadowing for the next one. But all right.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think Atletico, even Borussia Dortmund, if they could get out of this alive and win this fixture or win this two-legged affair, I think they could be the team to go on because I really genuinely, like you said, we'll talk about it a little bit. PSG and Barca, I think they're going to eat up on each other. But for Atletico Madrid, like you said, Julian, this is what Atletico are we going to get? Are we going to get this high pace Antoine Griezmann linking up with Alvaro Morata, this absolute beast Rodrigo de Paul, who looks like David Beckham back in the 2000s? I mean, are we going to get these absolute, because they got some dogs. Their coach is a dog. They have that dog mentality. When I think of Atletico Madrid,
have identity.
I think of some guys. Yeah, I think of some dudes that are going to just straight up go on the field and they're going to dog you out. These guys are going to just go ham at it. I'm talking about when you walk into like the middle school lunch line and you see that boy up in front and this kid's getting the chicken sandwich and he is raw dogging that thing. He's eating that thing into tearing it up. That's the type of team Atletico Madrid is. They're going to go in there and they're going to win. And I think this season in La Liga has kind of shown that. They've obviously, I think if I'm not wrong, they're fourth right now in the table. But these guys, I mean, they're tearing away. They're catching up. Obviously, Girona's kind of been on the downfall. Barcelona has, done their thing. But this is the type of team they are. Now, I will say, like you did say, though, Borussia Dortmund can catch them on the counter. And that's something Atletico Madrid has to be very, very careful of. Obviously, this is not the Diego Godin. This is not the, obviously, Diego Costa's of the team back years ago when these guys were very good on the transition. Never really got counterattacked much. Very, very solidly defensively. It's not like that anymore. Their back line and the guy between the two posts, I have to say, Jan Oblak, great goalkeeper. But God, when you've got freaking Llorente, he's your CB. Like, you best believe that you're going to be getting caught. So it's going to be something they have.
There's no way he's on that team next year.
I doubt it. Half the team shouldn't even be on the team next year. But that's the thing. I think Borussia Dortmund, I genuinely believe, I think their first leg, because I believe it is at Signal Ugand, their home field. So they're gonna. I think they'll win.
It's at Madrid first leg.
Oh, it's at Madrid. Okay. Oh, yeah. Ooh, okay. You know what? I honestly, when I saw this matchup, it kind of reminded me a little bit. I don't know if you remember last year's round of 16 matchup, Chelsea versus Borussia Dortmund. Obviously the favorite, I guess you could say the heavy favorite was Chelsea, but at the same time, Borussia Dortmund looked better in the group stage. They're performing better. They have better younger talent. They still have that younger talent with Adeyemi, Jadon Sancho's back obviously this year. So I think Borussia Dortmund on paper could be the better team. But I think Atletico Madrid, like I said, I mean, they have this dog mentality. These guys, when they're in this type of stage, the quarterfinals, last eight, semifinals on the line, UEFA Champions League, they don't lose these types of games. They rarely lose these types of games. So I think this is just going to be a tough uphill battle for Borussia Dortmund to try to catch up with. So I think Atletico Madrid's going to be able to pull it through.
All right. Let's go to the final game of this quarterfinal. We have PSG versus Barcelona, with the first leg being in Paris. I'll take it away since you just did this last one. Man, so I think Barcelona has just been a shit show all year long. Xavi just ended up not being the answer. I've been screaming from the rooftops that Xavi was not the answer. The moment after that first season, I'm like, this guy isn't it. His tactics are lackluster. He's getting demolished. I think his substitutions are subpar. I think he has talent on the team in his starting 11. Obviously, the depth falls really hard because of the financial constraints that Barcelona is having. They're having to resort to a lot of academy players, which I think a lot of the academy players have shown to be very good. Obviously, the biggest one being talked about is Lamine Yamal. Because of these financial restrictions and Barca not being able to show depth, you've actually kind of discovered this potentially next coming of Messi out of La Masia in Barcelona, and Lamine Yamal, who's playing amazing well. I know Will thought I was blasphemous for saying he's probably the best player on the team right now in terms of consistency and performances week in and week out.
That's hot. That's a hot ass take.
But I do think, well, just based off performances, I think he's the most talented. Potentially, we'll see as time goes on. I think as of right now, Joao Felix is your best player. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, Xavi doesn't play him. I don't get it. And he even benched Cancelo until he had to play him because of injury. I don't understand what is going on there. It's just all over the place. And I know some people say, well, João Felix, sometimes he looks like he's not enthused or really into the game much. But it's like, dude, the guy has pure talent. And to work with somebody with like Lewandowski, you need a guy like him. Rafinha, Rafinha is one of those players to me where he shows up against bad teams. He shows up against lesser quality teams. I don't want to say bad team, but lesser quality teams. But then when it comes to the big games in Champions League, he's ghost. He's disappeared. He doesn't show up. He never shows up in these big games and these high quality but when it comes to like teams that are like in relegation zone or bottom team La Liga, that's when he wants to show up. And to me, it's like, look, some of the best players, they show up. And like the moments I've seen in Joao Felix in the El Clasico against Real Madrid had moments of greatness where he looked amazing. And I think they have to find that way to get out, because I do think the starting 11 for Barca is really good, especially in the attack, in the midfield and the attack. But it's just depending on which Barca you're going to get. And I just don't have faith that you're going to get that quality out of them. I think they're going to score some goals. They can potentially win at home. They do have the second leg at home. But I think PSG's on the attack is going to be too much with Mbappe, Dembele. I think those two are just going to dice up that patched together defensive line that you have in Barcelona that's just not working. I mean, it's constantly changing. There's injuries. Barcelona's been so bad defensively. They've been so bad. And even last year, they're bad, even though the stats didn't show it because of, whatever. But when they played against quality teams, they just looked terrible. And I think Mbappe is just going to eat. I really do. I think he's going to torch everybody on that back line, whoever might end up playing it. I do think that the injuries to Frenkie de Jong and Pedri is really going to hurt them, because having that balanced midfield. But luckily, you still have the depth with Gundogan and why am I drawing a blank at the moment? You know what I mean?
Torres or something.
Yeah.
For me,
which, a little inexperienced. I don't know, but then you look at this PSG team, and this PSG team is absolutely stacked. I mean, you have guys like Mbappe, Dembele, like I said, Kang, the Korean man. I can never say. I'm so bad with Asian. Kang In Lee. I had to pull it up just to make sure. Kang In Lee, which I think is a guy who's got serious talent. I think he's going to be good. I think he's great for the Korean national team. Vitinha, Ruiz, Marquinhos, Hernandez. I feel like I like the spine for PSG. I think they have a very good spine that's going, and I think they're going to get it done. I think they're going to have a really hard time stopping Mbappe, but I do think it's going to be a close affair. But because of, I think PSG is just going to be a little bit more solid defensively. I like their quality a little bit more. They've been more put together. They've been more cohesive as a team, and they advance here.
Yeah. Hot take. Maybe this is extremely hot. Maybe this is like pop, DiGiorno's, you pop in a pizza, you pull it out. That thing is steaming hot. I think Koulibaly is going to score a hat trick against you guys. This dude is on freaking fire, man. This guy has been tearing it up in Ligue 1. This guy has been tearing it up with the French national team. I mean, we saw his talent at the World Cup. If it's not for Emilio Dibu Martinez's freaking, left foot of God, France is winning the World Cup final. And I'm saying that as somebody that was supporting Messi and Argentina in that World Cup. But genuinely, this man is going crazy. Now, for Barcelona, if they want to have a chance, like you said, Julian, I think it's going to have to be the young guys. These dudes are going to have to put them on their back, and they're going to have to carry him. And that's including Victor Roque. That's including
if he plays. If he plays,
right. If he plays, yeah. Or even João Felix, like João Felix. I was just looking at some of the guys that, their minutes and what they've been doing statistically throughout the season. Benjamin Yamal, 40 games, 6 goals, 4 assists. Victor Roque, obviously he's only played 12 games. He's had a little bit over 200 minutes, 2 goals, 1 assist. Fernan Torres, obviously he's a hot spot. He's a very big, I guess you could say roasting part of the team. Yeah. I know.
He's so bad. I don't know what they see in that man.
Right. But the thing is, though, if they're going to want to have an actual shot against PSG, it's going to have to be off the backs of these guys. These guys are going to have to pick him up, and Robert Lewandowski, of course. I mean, but the thing is, Lewandowski will deliver. Ike Gundogan will deliver. Ter Stegen will make big saves. It's going to have to be, like you even kind of said earlier, Julian, it's going to have to be the midfield. No Pedri, no Gavi. Frankie de Jong, is he questionable? Or is he good to come back?
Frankie de Jong, let me double check here.
Mm-hmm.
He's back in training, so he might play, actually. He says he's back in training. Play. How effectively be? We'll wait to be seen. Right. And so is Pedri. Pedri is also back in training. So I think they're going to put him in this game. I think it's going to be it's so crucial of a game. I think they're going to put him in. I think they're going to play, because now looking at this injury list, which it does change how I feel a little bit, but I just I mean, coming off an injury, how effective are they going to be? Like, then on top of that, the depth for PSG is so good. I mean, Gonzalo Ramos, that dude, I mean, he made a showcase in the World Cup for Portugal. I mean, he's been playing super well.
And he's on the bench. Which is crazy. Yeah. No, you're right. PSG, they're going to have the depth chart, all due respect to Barcelona. Love, my fellow Barcelona people, including you, Julian. But this is just going to be a hard affair. I think, like I said, I don't think this is going to be like what happened a couple of years ago, the incredible PSG, probably the greatest comeback in Champions League history. I don't think it's going to be anything like that for Barca. I think, if anything, it's going to be a similar result at home for them. I think they're going to lose. And I think they're going to be playing catch-up ball. Barcelona is going to be trying to get back into it. Obviously, I think they'll come close to it. Like you said, I think it's going to be a good
first leg's at Paris.
That's what I'm thinking. I think PSG is going to win first leg. Like I said, I think Colomani is going to score a hat trick that game. I think it's going to be 3-1, 3-0. They're going to go back to Barcelona, and I think it's going to be, I don't want to be said and dusted, but it's going to be a pretty tough result for Barcelona to come crawling back into. Like you said, I mean, Kylian Mbappe, this guy, if he can link up well, and he already has been doing it all season with Kembele, with Dembele, with Colomani, obviously the midfield with Ugarte, obviously, and it comes back all the way to Donnarumma. There's just too many connections. And I think also for PSG, just kind of in the grand sphere of things, a more generic look is, ever since they lost Messi, and then ever since Verratti left as well, and Neymar, this team had this sort of euphoria when these guys got there. And this was like, they need to win Champions League. They need to win the FIFA Club World Cup. They need to win the World Cup. Like, these guys need to do everything. Like, it was like they had all these unrealistic, in my opinion, unrealistic goals, and these, just absolutely unordinary things that the fans, and not even just the fans, the world saw that they should be doing. I think with Messi and especially Neymar, those two, they're two star guys, obviously a season ago gone. It's almost kind of been, I guess you could say Mbappe's season, but it's also been for these other guys kind of underneath him. The other Frenchmen, obviously Dembele and as well as Colomani have kind of stepped into those roles and just kind of gone along with it. And they've taken not Messi, they've taken Mbappe's step and they've rolled with him. So.
Yeah, and I think, too, to throw out, like, I know you mentioned that the young guys are going to have to put the team on their back. I don't know if they necessarily need to put. To me, I feel that you need, if Barcelona wants any chance, you need Joao Felix and Lewandowski to take over that game and carry, and then you need these young guys to hold their own and be effective and don't make mistakes. So I think you're gonna need your Gundogan to step up and be that guy. Like I think those three guys, if they can really step up and be a part of it, because to me, I've seen Joao Felix change games, and if depending on how Pedri feels, they're gonna need all hands on deck. I genuinely believe for Barca, but I think they'll have moments. I think the game's gonna be close, but I don't trust them to put out the right line and make the right substitutions and call the game. I think Luis Enrique is going to outcoach Barcelona. Yeah.
He knows half this team. He knows.
Yeah.
That he
coached
worked with half.
I mean, yeah.
Exactly. He knows probably the majority. He knows 75% of these players. And if he didn't coach them, he's worked alongside them or he's already seen them play
or scouted them.
I think
Yeah.
exactly. This is I agree. PSG's game.
All right. And those are our Champions League predictions for the quarterfinals. Let us know what you think down in the comments below. Are we stupid? Are we smart? Do you agree with us? Do you not? But yes, if you guys are seeing this video for the first time, we actually have a full-length podcast called Real Fans FC. If you guys want to check it out, please subscribe and like to the channel to get more content from us and see some of our full-length episodes. We greatly appreciate it. And see you guys in the next one. Peace out, everybody.
Peace.